Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode, and I'm here with a now regular guest, Chris Reeve. This time, I'm going to talk a little bit about Chris's early experiences of working with me. We met some 6 years ago, I think, now.
Might have even been before that.
Might have been before that, at some not to be mentioned but dreadful networking event, of which there are many, in my humble opinion. However, to be fair to said networking event, I may have only gone once, but I did meet you, and Chris helped me a huge amount with my social media. And in that time, I got to know Chris quite well and felt that he probably wasn't batting at the level he should be. And kind of, I suppose, is it right to say I took you under my wing? Is that a fair way to describe it? And sort of helped coach him out of the situation he was in at the time, which I didn't think was appropriate. It's about as tactful as I can be. So I know it's had an impact on you, but I don't want to be too egotistical and just say I'm great. What was
You want
your...
me to say you're great?
Yeah, I want you to say it to the camera, so there's evidence.
No,
in all
you
seriousness, what were your experiences of it?
Yeah,
Coaching in general. So don't make it about me.
coaching general.
Coaching in general.
Okay.
What has it meant for you?
I'm one. I don't think I'm abnormal in the sense, Oliver, of I don't often deal with things until I'm hit, and quite often in life we are not proactive, but we are reactive based upon the pain that we feel. Yeah. And so earlier on in my career, to go through that story, I was first of all, it was great that we got lucky with that networking event. Really? So lucky.
Yeah.
And I was in a really, really challenging, quite dark moment of my career. To sort of make this abundantly clear, I was going home, and my now wife Becky was saying, "You are verging on depression." And I was, fully prepared to basically just quit, go and work in a coffee shop, no matter what, just to get out of where I was working at the time. Such a toxic, horrible culture and environment to work. And I was doing the director's job without the director's paycheck, which is never nice either. But look, back to coaching and the power of it. I don't think it's just for me in that scenario. I think there are many people that feel like they're backed into a corner and they have no one to talk to, no one to vent with. And I say this because sometimes it's not okay to vent your career frustrations with your family, because they're actually not best placed to do that. Because first of all, they're biased. Yeah. They can't positively challenge you. They might not be as critical when you need to actually have a bit of a kick up the backside. And so actually having a coach was so impactful. And often, as we giggle about this quite often, Oliver, I refer to you as Nanny McPhee. And for those of you that have watched Nanny McPhee, you'll understand the link there. And that's because with Nanny McPhee, when you need her, you don't really want her to be there. And that's because of what she does and how she does it to put you in the best place possible. So that is in essence like my first introduction to coaching. And there are so many people that just put up with the position that they're in. I speak to friends all the time about this. They're just constantly moaning about their jobs and what they're doing. And I'm like, well, why don't you get help to get out? And I remember, Oliver, very well, not just the accountability piece, but you were helping me with ways to word emails and when I should have a face-to-face and how I should have a face-to-face and the right time to say something. And there's so many things with coaching. I can go on and on and on and on and on about it. But I do believe that the main thing is accountability. And a lot of people say, why would I pay money for accountability? Like, it's no different to a personal trainer. It's no different to a health and wellness coach. It's like sometimes, paying for that privilege, it does just give you that kick up the backside that you need to make things happen. And there were times where I would go into our sessions, Oliver, like, oh my God, I'm going to go and see the headmaster. But the truth is, we all need a bit of that every now and then, because if not, we just put up with stuff because we're nice, polite, well-to-do humans that, just want to be kind to people. So I think for me, working with you was an absolute game changer. And just so lucky, but also now on like a bit of a mission myself to tell people about the power of coaching, which is, I'll be honest with people, this is why we jumped on this podcast today. I said to Oliver, like, I need to be a guest. I need to tell the world just how valuable your work is, because I think like you are way too humble about it, and you don't realize there are just so many people are missing out, and it frustrates me. Why don't people invest in that? It's such a basic commitment, but it's an essential one if you genuinely want to progress. But also, let's be honest, if you're in a sticky patch, and I was in a sticky patch, and you helped me out of that, and for that I'll be forever grateful, mate.
You're welcome. Well, that is why I do what I do.
And I say mate as well. I say mate as well, and that says a lot, because that's how I view you now. And a lot of people, maybe they don't want their coach to be their mate, but that was how you made me feel. It was like a friendship, not I'm paying you money to help me out and then that's it. I genuinely feel like you have my best interests at heart, and my boss didn't. My family's bias. I don't want to necessarily share the burden of the situation with my loved ones. So I definitely cannot recommend coaching enough to people.
Yeah, I remember Matt Sykes talking to me. If you don't know Matt, fantastic sales trainer. Whilst we're on the message of that, I've done a couple of podcasts with him as well. But he had me in at one point in his life, just having a little bit of a crossroads, and I helped him out of that. Just a couple of sessions, is all he needed to make a decision, which he obviously would make himself. And his feedback for me as my unique selling point was brutal honesty. And I think, to be honest, your point is fair, that we don't get that anywhere near enough, where you just get someone who can just call you on your crap, challenge some of the thinking that's going on. And we would regularly meet early mornings for breakfast.
At the Nelson, wasn't it?
At the Nelson in Norwich.
Yeah, bleary-eyed.
And you were quite sheepish at times by the end of it, because you got a bit of a battering when I was just grilling. I would never tell people what to do. It would all be about why would that be helpful? Why would you need to do that? What's that going to achieve? Why have we not moved on from the last session? All these sorts of things, and you would be there, be like.
But as a consequence, Oliver, my graph was going like that, right? And then with you, it was always 1% more, at least 1% more, and my graph all of a sudden was back up to where it should be. Linked to coaching and what you've just said there about strong, critical conversations, and this is to back someone else in your network, which we spoke about before we recorded this. I want to bring him up. It's not just you as a coach as well. I was very lucky early on in my career. Some of my first networking experience was at the Business Growth Club.
Yeah,
is that the
Neil
right name?
Foley, yeah.
It was many years ago that I attended now, and Neil Foley runs that, for people that don't know. And I just really looked up to Neil and all of his wealth of knowledge in business, and I was just taking everything in. And before I started my business, he basically invited me to pitch, and I was just like, that's really cool. So, young Chris Reeve, I pitched to Neil Foley, and my God, it was all I can say. And at the time, I can't lie, it seriously impacted me, and it put me in a really sad emotional place. But now, all those years later, and I haven't, and I need, this is the first time I'm saying this, so Neil, if you're watching and listening, thank you. I needed that critical conversation. Yeah. I needed him to say, Chris, that is a joke. What are you doing? Why are you saying that? And people will be like, oh, that's a bit harsh. And I think we maybe live in an era now where people are a bit, they try, like, they dodge things. It's like sometimes you just need to be told. And that was my other experience of coaching. And Neil said, Chris, this ain't good enough. You're nowhere near it. And it really shocked me, but I needed that, and people need that. And that's why coaching's important. And don't get me wrong, there are times where, you get the pat on the back as well, but you've got to jump and commit to coaching, because everyone needs that from time to time.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I always, it often surprises people, and that I always talk about, funnily enough, Neil was my coach. And yeah, so he's definitely been one of the best around, because he's brutal. And someone like myself who's quite confident, fairly sure in himself, knows what he wants, needs somebody who's not bothered by that, and will just say, what are you doing? Why? And that's sometimes all you need is when you're rabbiting on, trying to justify a thing you've done that week, and then you just go and say, well, why have you done that?
And how refreshing is it also that you're a coach and you have a coach? Because I've seen other people in your industry that are coaches, but they're not coached by other people, and it just seems so prescriptive. And I'll be brave, it does. And I just feel like with someone like yourself, like you believe and feel and know just the impact of coaching so much that you get coached yourself, and that's a testimony to you.
Yeah, I think I won't go too hard into slagging off my industry, but it's made quite difficult for people like myself because there is a lot of very, very bang average stroke crap coaches out there who aren't coaches. They don't know how to coach, and they follow scripts. And if you're receiving any coaching where people follow scripts because they've gone through a coaching body, and this is the thing that always makes me smile, is there's a lot of coaching affiliations out there. And I even had a gig recently where I was put forward for it, but I don't have a certification for anything other than the tools I already use. And they said, well, that's going to be a problem for us. I said, well, it's not going to be a problem for me, because if you want me to go down one of those channels, then you won't get to work with me, because I'm not going to do it, because that is the direct opposite of what it should be. People who go through these programs are presumed to be on a pedestal. Well, no, they just follow a format. Doesn't mean they're any good at coaching. I'm a really good coach because of life experiences, not because I've gone through a bloody 1 week training program or 6 month training program and I've got a pointless certificate on the wall. Sorry, it does get me going a little bit.
Well, and before you go further down that rabbit hole, I'll pull you out quickly, and I'll say that's the other thing about coaching, particularly your coaching, which I found extremely beneficial, and that was, and you've mentioned Matt Sykes, great sales coach. You mentioned Neil Foley. All the best coaches that I've come across, and obviously working with yourself as well, Oliver, is you took the time to genuinely understand, research, and learn my world, my situation, on and off the pitch, to use a football analogy. What's going on in my life behind the scenes, because obviously that's the reason why I'm not doing things, or I am doing things, product of my environment. How's my setup at home at the moment? What's my financial situation? And, don't get me wrong, that takes bravery to open up about that, but I felt comfortable enough to open up to you about that. But you genuinely listened to help. You didn't just listen to respond with a script. So I totally endorse what you're saying. And it's the same with me in the social media world. People will get their qualification in marketing. They've got their their stamp. They whack it on their LinkedIn account, and they give people advice that they learned 10 years ago. But the world of, even in my world, it's changing so quickly, like literally daily. I often have to have conversations with people and say, look, I'm giving you advice now, but Facebook might have actually changed their mind on that an hour ago, right? And that's the great thing about the way that you work. You make it genuinely bespoke and relevant to the person that you're actually coaching.
I think that's the point you make, really, to sort of cap this bit off, is the power of coaching is huge, and there are great coaches out there, but it needs to be authentic. It needs to be bespoke. If it's part of if there's a systematic approach to it, that's not coaching. That's coaching just dressed up in a package. And I don't advocate it at all. In fact, I think it is most of the time a rip-off, to be fair. So
there you go.
It's not me advocating me as a coach for you, but I am advocating the experiences that Chris has had, where we've got quite personal. We haven't followed a script. I haven't gotten to fill in forms. There's a couple of funky little tools that I use, and other people will use their own versions of tools, but we're not just going to use that one tool all the way through, which again, I come across people using certain personality tools, and that's all they coach on. It's like, oh my goodness.
Just one more thing from me on this, Oliver. I know you're trying to cap off here, so forgive me, but the other thing that shocked me, this is how this fella works. There were times where I would turn up to a coaching session. You would look at my body language. You would really understand where I'm at. And I vividly remember you saying to me, nope, you're not at it today. You're not ready for this conversation. We'll try it another day. And I'll be like, really? Are you sure? But that's how dedicated you are to make it. You don't want to just give me the script, even though I'm not prepared to listen. I'm not in the headspace necessarily to take on board your advice and wisdom. You're fully prepared to say, no, you're not ready for this today. let's arrange it next week. And that's because you're in it for the long haul, mate. So
Yeah.
kudos to you genuinely for the way that you work with your clients.
Thank you very much, and I'm obviously glad it's worked out for you.
It has indeed.
Excellent. Well, thank you. I hope that's been insightful. Like I say, I'm always happy to talk to people about coaching with me, but really what I'm trying to do is advocate coaching as a whole. I can't coach everybody anyway, but I'm also advocating make sure that you're getting an authentic experience from your coach and you're not buying an off-the-shelf product, because it just doesn't work 99 times out of 100. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed that. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.